Ready for the video?
Yeah, I'm ready.
Let's do it.
Let's do it.
Cool. Awesome. Present practice. What is vibing? This is Vish and
Anna.
And today we'll be responding to Sadhguru's video on
Shiva, the masculine and feminine energy together.
Do you ever find yourself stressed, anxious, or nervous? Well, that used to be me all the time, and then I found meditation. And now I've got hundreds of people on their journeys, and I'll be soon coming out with the meditation products, so stay tuned for that. And today, I'm here with Anna. Want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, so I'm an international tarot reader and astrologer. I help people with twin flame and with their own light work.
Awesome, and where can they find you?
I'm on Insta as Anna Casey Lightwork, or I'm on TikTok, same thing again, Anna Casey Lightwork. Where else am I?
YouTube?
You can find me on YouTube as Anna Casey Tarot and Lightwork.
Yeah, check out our stuff, which will be down below. Have you heard of Sadhguru before?
Yeah, I actually came across a couple of his videos online. Just, you know, you go down a wormhole sometimes and you end up somewhere.
Yeah.
So I watched a few of his videos on relating, particularly when I'm helping clients with their twin flame journey. That masculine and feminine balance thing comes up. So I was attracted to those videos.
Very cool. And what is that twin flame thing you just talked about? What does that mean?
So lots of people have soulmates or people who they see as important, significant others in their lifetime. Twin flame is just this idea that there's somebody who is half your soul, who you meet at some point and they really catalyze a change for you.
Wow, very cool. And before we start, I'm curious, how would you briefly describe the masculine and feminine?
So masculine energy is, in tarot, it would be more that air energy, so that's the swords energy, or the earth energy, so that's pentacles. So it's action focused, outward looking, one's own will, and it tends to be instigative. Whereas feminine energy is more receptive, so we see that more as the water or cups energy in tarot, or the fire, as in the wands, so that's literally procreation, creativity, passion.
Yes.
So that's more the feminine energy, so that's, like I said, more receptive, can be also more emotional and more psychic. What's really important for people to remember is we all have both feminine and masculine energy within us. So really, if you're on a twin flame journey, it's about balancing your inner masculine and feminine, and the outer masculine or feminine is going to help you do that. Sometimes in ways that isn't always comfortable.
Absolutely. Again, thank you so much for sharing that as well. And with that,
let's get into the video.
Bhrigu became intensely devout about Shiva, that he became very feminine. So Parvati felt little irked by this, so he asked her to move. Oh, Shiva was just amused by the tiff that is going on between his wife and his devotee. If you are not aware of this already, Shiva in yoga is seen as not as a god, but as the Adi Yogi. That means he's the first yogi. And the Adi Guru, that means the first guru. And today, yoga as a science, yoga as a system, yoga as a technology for inner well-being is available to us only because of the feminine play. That is, Parvati compelled him to teach. By himself, he would have never done that. So because he became the first guru, naturally he developed disciples and devotees. Of the first 7 disciples that he taught yoga to, who are known as Saptarishis, of these Saptarishis, the whole of southern mysticism has come from Agastya Muni. He is everything to us here because everything that we know is from him. He was Shiva's direct disciple. Another disciple was Bhrigu. Bhrigu became intensely devout about Shiva, that he became very feminine. because devotion is feminine. He became a great devotee of Shiva. So every day he comes and he wants to do… 3 times he wants to circumambulate Shiva. That means he wants to do pradakshina 3 times. He doesn't start his day without doing that. And Parvati is right here. By now she is also a fully enlightened being. But he ignores her completely and he goes only around Shiva, never around both of them. So Parvati felt little irked by this. So one day, she sat close to him. Then Bhrigu came and there was no way to go around Shiva without going around Parvati, so he asked her to move. This is the way of a devotee. They are not logical people, very feminine. But they're intense. Parvati said, "Why should I move?" He said, "I will go only around the Lord, not you." Bhrigu saw there was not enough space for him to go around Shiva alone, so he converted himself into a mouse and went around Shiva alone, ignoring Parvati or excluding Parvati from the circumambulation. So Shiva was just amused by this tiff that is going on between his wife and his devotee. So he looked at the whole thing and he grabbed Parvati and put her on his lap, just to see what he will do. How is he going to circumambulate Shiva without circumambulating Parvati now, because she is sitting on his lap? Then Bhrigu transformed himself into a bird and went around just Shiva. Then Shiva was completely amused by this devotion, very pleased and also amused by the way the devotee is expressing himself and the way Parvati is getting fired up because of this discrimination. So Shiva said, "Okay, let's see what you will do." And he just merged her into a part of himself. Shiva has become half Parvati and half woman, half man. This is half man, half woman. If one knows how to nurture this one to its fullest extent, this will become half man, half woman, and that is how it will be. So this is called Ardhanari, where he is half man and half woman. So he made her a part of himself, just to see what the devotee will do. Now Bhrigu made himself into a bee and went around only the right leg. So Shiva and Parvati, both of them laughed and they said, "This is not a man. He's too feminine. What he's dedicated to is everything to him. He's blind to everything else." So he just buzzed around the right leg refusing to go around the left leg because this is Parvati. Then this childish way of devotion of Bhrigu was amusing and nice, but at the same time, Shiva did not want Bhrigu to be lost in his devotion and miss the ultimate nature of the existence. So, he got into the yogic posture of Siddhasana, where there was no way for him to circumambulate his leg or any other part of his body. If he has to do it, he has to do it for both these principles of feminine and masculine. So this is how this body became like this, that it is half male and half female, or masculine and feminine in equal proportions. if one knows how to nurture this one, both will be fully active and alive in every human being. If we let these two parts of us reverberate as intensely as the other, each one of us can be a 100% man and 100% woman within ourselves. The whole science of yoga is based on this, that you should not miss either the masculine or the feminine in you, because any one of them will be a lopsided life. Now when we say yoga, we are talking about a dimension which is all-inclusive. It is not an exercise or a process for creating health. It is about ultimate well-being of the human being, in which you cannot exclude any aspect of life. It is about attaining to a dimension beyond all dimensions. It is about a system and a method to use your own existing system as a ladder to the divine, to make your body, to make your mind, to make your emotion and your energies a ladder to the divine, to make yourself into a stepping stone towards your ultimate nature.
So what'd you think, Anna, of that video?
I loved it. I absolutely love the metaphors in it. It's so rich and deep. There was a lot there.
Wow. No, I definitely agree with you and resonate. And it was really interesting how it's important to understand that there's a difference between being male and being masculine, and being a female and then being feminine. What do you think about that?
Yeah, absolutely. That's a really good entry point for anyone on this. In all of my readings, or when I see clients, or when I do videos, I always refer to people as the masculine or the feminine, or even the divine masculine, the divine feminine. And by that I mean, and we as spiritual beings who do this work often mean whichever side of you tend to lead with. Obviously there are people out there who have reached full enlightenment, right? And they are fully balanced. They tend not to be watching tarot videos. Right. The people who are on the journey, most people, right? Mm-hmm. So most people who are on the journey, yeah, they usually have one which they lead with, one which we identify with. I lead with my feminine when I'm in relationship, but when I'm out working, I lead with my masculine. And I would love to be able to be present with both sides of me.
Yes.
In both of those different contexts.
Absolutely. No, that's very important. And as you kind of mentioned, balance is key, mm-hmm. right? Within each of us. And like I said earlier, I mean, if you're, let's say, by society considered a male, it's important to also balance the feminine within you and not to suppress that. And then the same thing with you being a female, I think it's important to also honor the masculine within you. Would you say that's a decent description for how one should balance these energies? What do you think?
Yeah, I absolutely agree. However, I spent a small amount of time working with Tony Robbins, and he has a phrase that I absolutely love, which is "don't should all over yourself." Okay. So I feel quite strongly that we should all over yourself.
What does that mean?
So you were talking about how we should do this or we should do that.
Yes.
And I really subscribe to this idea of getting away from the should and towards what he was talking about there was using our own bodies, our own selves as ladders to the divine. I love that.
Yes.
There are no gatekeepers.
Yes.
Particularly in spirituality, we love to create gurus or priests who are like these gurus, we love to create gurus or priests who are these gatekeepers to the divine. But actually we are divinity. Each one of us is divinity. And I think it's really important that we remember that and not should all over ourselves.
I see. I appreciate you sharing that. So what did you think about the story that he was talking about with regards to the devotee, right? Mm-hmm. And I thought it was really interesting with how determined he was to just circle around Shiva. What did you think about that?
I loved it. I was reading it as a metaphor for our society, particularly in the West at this time, we have had such a strong rejection of the feminine in our society. You just have to look at the way that workplaces are set up, the way that growth at all costs, even at the cost of nature, it runs so prevalently, this sort of toxic masculinity, toxic patriarchy.
Yes.
It's not good for the masculine or the feminine, and that's how I read that.
Yes.
And what was really fascinating is that Sadhguru was talking about how the devotee was very feminine because he was not logical. And yeah, I agree with that. Logic is more of a masculine way of doing things. Intuition and gut is more of a feminine way of doing things.
Yes.
But what's fascinating there is the feminine devotee was rejecting femininity by only going around Shiva.
Yes.
So it's this idea that, so for me, the idea that it is men doing this to women or masculines doing this to feminines, it's just not as simple as that.
Yes.
And that's what I got from that. It's for us all to remember that, particularly when we're on a journey, twin flame, divine counterpart, or even just a career and purpose journey, a lot of the time, whether we lead with feminine or masculinity, we can catch ourselves out in rejecting a feminine way of doing things. For instance, an example would be to invalidate your own feelings. To feel something and think, oh, I shouldn't be feeling that, I'll do it anyway, that kind of thing.
Absolutely, that was a really, really cool takeaway you had from that. That's really, really interesting, and I definitely connect with that. I mean, it's important to really just, as I said earlier, balance the two. And even as you mentioned, I mean, it's not about necessarily even attaching that if you're a female that you have to be only intuitive and you can't be logical, and that if you're a male that you should only be logical and that you can't be intuitive. These are just dimensions, right? As he says and as you're mentioning. And that, so if you're a male, you can have feminine qualities, or even just call it energies, if you want to call it that, and be more intuitive. So there's no like, this is this and that's that, right? It's really just open for how you want to focus on your energies.
Yeah.
And was there anything else you want to add to that?
I just wanted to also say that I really enjoyed the amount of laughter in it. You know, they were saying, oh, she was a bit irked by being excluded, right? But yet she was laughing too.
Yes.
And so there was a lightness to it, a levity to it. And that for me is something for us all to aspire to, particularly in the society we live in now, where it all feels like so much like survival.
Yes.
And a lot of the people who are on this spiritual path are unraveling traumas or breaking ancestral cycles and making sure that they are at a place where they don't have to feel like they're in fight or flight or survival all the time.
Yes.
And they can bring a bit of lightness to their lives, and they can laugh when things that previously might have felt crushing happen.
Yes. Absolutely. No, that's very, very on point. And as Sadhguru himself says, actually, it's, I forget the exact quote, but it's something on the lines of how just don't take life too serious, otherwise you become dead serious about it, and it's, I mean, it should be a play, right? I'm kind of butchering the exact quote. Paraphrasing, yeah, there we go. But yeah, the key is to take it, you know, lightly, as you mentioned, and you'll notice as you kind of focus on the spiritual path, you will naturally become light about everything, right? And just laughing and being joyful. And that spirituality isn't necessarily a serious thing. It's a very fun thing. And I appreciate you sharing all those beautiful things.
Absolutely, and thank you so much for spending your time watching this with me.
Awesome. Thank you all so much for watching and taking the time, and I appreciate you for also being here.
Absolutely, thank you.
And don't forget to check Anna out, who will also be down below. And with that, make a great day, take it joyfully, and stay conscious. Awesome job. There we go.